Yeah. Welcome out, ladies and gentlemen, once again to the RemiX Morning Show, giving you that boom bap breakfast right here, right now. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and let me introduce your host for the day. We got Kamal K. Franklin and Kalanji Jama Chonga.
I like that. Boy, that's just, hey, man. That sounds natural.
It sounds forced.
I mix it around, you know what I mean? Everybody get a piece.
Okay.
Today I'm going to be looking like Jesus or something because until like at some break I have to get up and close the blind. Y'all see the light coming in?
You more look like Jesus. I don't know about you.
You look like you look like the Jesus on white people walls. Anyway, welcome to the RemiX Morning Show. You know what I'm saying? Kalanji Jama Chang alongside D.
He already did the intro. He already did the intro.
I just want to introduce you properly, Jesus.
Oh, what? I didn't do it properly?
You did great. Jesus in the building. Anyway, it's a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
You know what it feels like?
What it feel like?
The E, the N, the E, the D.
Here we go.
The D, the E, Renegade.
Ding dong.
Like
all right. Welcome to Renegade Coaches to take over this morning. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully they got my contract right because I only do Renegade Coaching when I'm getting paid these days. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So with that in mind, we are here today. And it's going to be a wonderful day because of the fact that it is now Black History Month once again, February 8th, 2022. You know what I'm saying? We missed a couple born dates. Shout out to Bob Marley, whose birthday was a few days ago. You know what I'm saying? Nice rebel music for the Bobster. You know what I'm saying? Yesterday, Sandra Bland, you know what I'm saying? She would have been 35, I believe. You know, so that shows you how crazy that is. But you know, we rocking, man. We're gonna have a wonderful day regardless, man. Come on, how was your weekend, sir?
Weekend was chill. I don't know if I did anything particularly special. You know, it's always a blur. You know, with the young kids, it's always like a blur. It's like you kind of like anytime somebody asks that question, it's like, I think I just did things with my kids, and so therefore it's a blur.
Plus, you're over 50 now, so you know what I'm saying. That shit.
Am I the only one here over 50? Is that what's going on?
I mean, you're the elder of
our ages.
I'm going back.
I'm also the young. I mean, damn. I was gonna say I was.
What? Shout out to Terry, the youngest in charge.
Hello.
I was just about to lie. What's up?
Hey, yo, I got to take my daughter to ballet class. I found this black ballet studio. I took her. She was nervous at first. She got there and was loving it now. So I'm happy about that. So that was my good thing for the weekend. That's all I remember, really.
That's all you
My daughter's in dance, so she might be in the same class. Hopefully not. But anyway,
y'all rock out. Peace.
Yeah. What's happening, Tierney? How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you all?
Good, good. How was your weekend?
Went back quick. Not much going on over here.
Okay. Welcome to Renegade.
Oh, there it is.
There's too many R's around here. Renegade, RemiX, Riot Started TV. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of R's around here, but it's all good though.
You do that plug-in for yourself. I like that. How you do
I had to. Shout out to Riot Started TV. Matter of fact, say that.
Ed, you had a good show on the other day. Who you had on?
I had Kamasi on, OG Kamasi, and I'm just telling y'all, if you all don't know anything about prison movement, if you want to further your knowledge about George Jackson from someone who actually knew him and rolled with him, and Bunchy Carter, you know what I'm saying? For those who don't know, Kamasi is definitely, you know, he's a jewel in the revolutionary community. So shout out to him, you know what I'm saying? So you know, for keeping that fire burning, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, we are here. We are here today. It's a beautiful day. Beautiful day. What else we got going on, man? What did you do this weekend, Tierney? I mean, I know you probably went to the Congo or Niger. Where'd you go?
I picked up a hobby. A hobby I'm going to try to do, which sounds very boring, but I want to start canning foods because I think that there's going to be a civil war at some point. We have to have backup food because all the stuff is going on.
So you're going to actually learn how to can food?
Yeah, I'm going to start with without a canner, but I found a really good quality one. They said you will never have to buy another one again, but it costs like $380. So I'm like going to wait to my next paycheck for that one. But I'm gonna try to just start canning ones that don't need. Why
don't you just buy them already in the can and store them? Why are you going to can them? What's the point of learning how to can?
Well, the point is so like I garden, so you can put stuff in from the garden, and plus we don't want to depend on the system because if the electric grid goes down, we're not gonna be able to get canned food anymore. So
I'm about to go to the grocery store if the electric grid go down.
You're gonna be fighting all these.
They'll be like, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get
grocery store shut down. He's still knocking on the door. Like,
oh, I ain't gonna knocking on the door, son. Ain't no knocking on the door. I'll be getting in. I'm from Brooklyn.
As long as you're armed, because people are gonna be fighting.
I just did the universal click.
Okay. I thought your underarm was itching or something. I was like, what's brother?
Like, you wear that hat. That's why.
I like that. I'm like, come on, wearing that tussie again. Anyway. Yes.
We had a flashback, Tyranny. We had a flashback.
We did. But no, canon is definitely good, Tyranny. You know what I'm saying? We are working on some classes with the Urban Survival Preparedness Institute because of the fact that you have the fresh, you can, just jar it up, store it like our grandparents used to do, and make sure you know where it comes from. It's fresh out the garden, no chemicals, all that type of stuff. So that's definitely a powerful thing, man. So, big up to all those farmers out there.
Folks are telling me things about my organization I don't even know. They're like, CMB is having a canning workshop in the fall. I was like, word?
I just saw it. That's your man. Shout out to Crush Proof Studio making up shit as we go along.
Making up. People don't make shit up in CMB. That means we're doing it. We got folks who can.
That's my man. We all got that. We doing it. I was making them up. You just said you ain't know about
making up shit. That ain't bigging nobody up.
My bad, brother. God damn, taking shit personal at 8:30 in the morning. It ain't even 8:30 yet.
It ain't 10.
It's all good in the hood. Chill, man. Tighten up on that tussie. Anyway, we get your tea right, everybody. It's the Remix Morning Show. We're gonna have a wonderful show today. We have a special guest coming in at 9:25 a.m.
Well, all right.
We have an artist who we all know and love, and it happens to be a woman. So I just want to point that out because of the fact that folks complain sometimes that we be heavy on one side of things. So what I'm saying, we have a dope artist that'll be coming out at 9:25. So stick around, and we have a whole lot of good news. It might not be good news, but it will be good news, no doubt.
That's an interesting complaint. I mean, I was looking through my YouTube stats, and even as a woman, like 80% of my viewers are male. I'm like, I don't know why. It's something I've noticed a lot.
You don't know why? You don't know why?
Oh.
I mean, but our numbers are not that far off. I think when we've done ours is like in the 70s percent male, stuff like that. So I think we all got to do a better job. I mean, some of us have to do a better job.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like a lot of sisters in the chat this morning. Shout out to all the remixers out there doing what they do. Broke-ish. Shout out to Erica Brown for adding on with the news. She's been helping us out on the news production. So we appreciate that. Sister May in the background on the boards, and we're gonna have a beautiful week this week. A lot of powerful things happening. Good guy, Dr. Jared Ball will be back tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? He's somewhere fronting like the school is under threat today. You know what I'm saying? He may pop through. You know how we do. You know what I'm saying? Parking lot pimping. But yeah, it's a lot going on.
Speaking of parking lot pimping, I think the ear doctor is ready to come. I couldn't let that one pass. I think the ear doctor is ready to come back on and do a little mix for us.
Okay, I mean, he coming on early, but okay.
A little bit early, but
my bad. Did I miss the cue?
Yeah, you missed the time. You never look at the time. But hey, Tyranny, what you smoking on over there?
Oh, tea.
Oh, okay.
He got excited.
Word.
He
No,
got
I had to
excited.
turn my heat on because it probably made it more amplified.
Hold on, wait.
Find out Wake and Bake is in the building.
Wait. I like how she said, you said, what you smoking on, Tierney? She said, tea. Plus, I turned my heat on. I mean, you going too far. I mean, your heat smoking, Tierney? Come on now. Stop it.
No, like it's colder in here, so it's probably making the smoke worse.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
I just know the ear doctor got a little excited over there. He was like,
He's snitching. He's right snitching. What you smoking
how you
on?
gonna get that over to Atlanta? How you gonna get that over to Atlanta?
Hey, yo, since you're talking about cold and weather, you know what time it is. Let me give you all the weather report, and let's get to it right about now on the Remix Morning Show.
Let's get it. Remix Morning Show. Blackout.
What's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. As you can see, I set the set is a little different today. We're doing a little bit of reconstruction, but as you see, I got some new things. I got my new turntable over here. We're doing it like that. But anyway, let me make sure y'all know to please like and subscribe, and also hit that notification bell so y'all can know what is coming up on this channel. All right, let me get right into it. Let's start off with the weather. All right, where are we going to start off? Let's start off with a place that a lot of people are talking about right now, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yes, that's right. We're going to start off there. Yes, they are known for some famous people like Lizzo, like no other than Prince and Morris Day in the time. Yes, they are known for that, but they also known for some cops wilding out, killing another brother. Now, temperature over there is cold, just like those pigs. 39 degrees is the high. Next, we're going to take it to Greensboro, North Carolina. Big up to the Aggies over there at A&T. Blah, blah, blah. They got a high today of 47 degrees. Next, let's take it to the west side. We're going to take it over to Oakland, California. They got a high today of 72 degrees. And next, let's take it down to the islands. Big up to Freeport, Bahamas. They got a high of 76. I wonder why they call it Freeport. You know what they was doing with the slaves. Anyway, next, let's take it over to Harper, Liberia. That's right. I picked that one because it was very easy to pronounce. Harper, Liberia, high today of 85 degrees. And now, let's take it to a place called Gizo Solomon Islands. Have y'all ever heard of this place? It's like right over there by Australia, but they got a high today at 87. Now, these are the people, some of the people of Gizo. As you can see, these beautiful sisters right here, and you can see these brothers right here. Now, the thing that they say about Gizo is it has a history of headhunters. No. So, you know how colonizers come there. You know, the people that have the victory write the story. So, according to the local stories, the Gizo tribe were notorious in this country for headhunting. As a consequence, the surrounding local tribes took an unusual step of joining together and obliterating the Gizo tribe. The stories further relate to the only survivors of a Gizo woman and her son. These Gizos, now this whole place is looked at as tourism for surfing and popular other diving activities. So just like colonizers colonize, you know how they get down. But big up, that's what the weather is today. So let's keep it moving on the Remix Morning Show. All right.
Say Minneapolis again?
Huh?
Say Minneapolis again?
Minnesota.
I said Minneapolis.
Minneapolis?
What the fuck is that?
Minneapolis.
What's a Minneapolis?
Minneapolis is when it's more than one. It's Minneapolis's. But anyway.
I thought Minnie was small. Like Minnie Mouse?
Okay, good shit. This episode is sponsored by Tussie, my grandmother's favorite deodorant back in the day.
Is that what Tussie is? I was wondering.
Yeah.
What you were talking
You remember Tussie? Yeah, so
Nah.
Tussie, for folks who are New Jacks and whatnot, down south they used to have this cream deodorant called Tussie. It was way old, man. I remember my grandmother used to have it on the dresser. So shout out.
But that's
Shout
what
out
it is.
to,
I'm sure y'all get into Minnesota and Minneapolis. If I said it right or wrong again, hey, you know what
okay,
it is.
Professor.
You stuck on the mini
that
thing. That's hilarious. Okay.
You know, we got Professor Jared Bald and Professor Bald. Anyway, Remix Morning Show. We're gonna take it. We're gonna slap the map and we're gonna come on back. You know what I'm saying, with some good news this morning.
Holla.
Yes, we're back again. We're back to serious mode this morning because of the fact that, as Kamal pointed out, you know what I'm saying, might not be good news, but the show is what, Kamal?
Hood news.
No doubt. Shout out to Dead Prayers and whatnot. Hood news joint, RBGs. I want to see, Sister Tyranny, you have any news you want to report this morning? You want to get it started, or?
Yeah, we could talk about what's going on at the African Union. And I'm ready today, so I have my stories out. So let me pull that up.
She ready?
Yeah, so two big things. One, there's been a lot of talk about, agreeing close. Okay, about the coups that have been happening. So of course we know that there have been a number of coups happening this past 2 years. And so the African Union came together and basically blasted the coups and everything like that. They never want to talk about the conditions that led to the coups. They want to focus on the disturbances inside of their order, but whatever. So yeah, it was on Saturday. And on the agenda was the epidemic of coups that have recently shaken Western Africa and following unconstitutional regime changes in Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, and Sudan. Have been suspended from the institution by the Peace and Security Council, which is a very interesting name inside of the African Union. So this was expected, I think, you know, particularly with a lot of the dialogue that's been happening with the ECOWAS and the African Union, of course, will always try to isolate any type of state that goes out of compliance with the colonial global order. But something else that was interesting that happened in addition to this was there was conversations about Israel's observer status that is supposed to be happening inside of the African Union along with these coups. So where is this article? Here we go. So apparently there was so much calamity over this that the African Union had to postpone their debate on Israel's observer status. It says African Union suspended a debate on whether to withdraw Israel's accreditation as an observer to the bloc, avoiding a vote that risks creating an unprecedented rift in the 55-member body. And my question is, why do it if this is going to cause such a rift? There are countries in Africa, like South Africa, that have a not so distant past remembrance of Israel literally collaborating with the apartheid state. And so why would you, and South Africa is of course a major player inside of Africa, a major economy inside of Africa. So what sense does it make risking the supposed African unity that is said to exist at the African Union, all for Israel to have observer status? So it says, as the summit opened in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, on Saturday, Palestinian Authority Prime Minister Mohammed, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, Ushateye, to withdraw their accreditation, saying Israel should never be rewarded for its violation in the apartheid regime it does impose on the Palestinian people, which of course, allowing a literal apartheid state in the African Union is the biggest slap in the face to all of the people who thought of that organization of African unity. So, and you know, that's one thing I'll give credit to, is that it's very easy for neo-colonial states to just align with Israel. But the fact that some countries are willing to literally, you know, go to war about this, that's something that you have to give them credit, you know, because it's just easy to say, oh, Israel interest, United States interest, let's just go with that. So that's just some interesting developments, is that they had to literally postpone it because it says the issue can divide Africa and Africa cannot be divided. I would say it's already divided. So any thoughts on that stuff?
I mean, It's a joke. I mean, come on. Like, I mean, why? I mean, like you said, Israel being an observer of what? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can see if it's some terrorism going on, and it's just pure terror and it's pure criminal activities, and they want to observe and participate. Then that sounds more, more like it. But I'm talking about. I mean, come on, man. What kind of moral rights or standards do they have? You're talking about a group of individuals who actually stole the land that they occupy right now. So it's amazing how the thieves get to observe what's going on when it comes to other thievery. That's that's real cool. Thanks, Israel.
Israel's idea is to try to normalize itself, right? So it does as much as it can to present itself as any other nation. So having observer status, being on committees within the United Nations, having relationships with the surrounding Arab and Islamic states or Muslim states are the things that Israel wants to say, hey, look away, everything's fine here. We're just another state, just like everybody else. And it doesn't want it to, doesn't want to stand out as the overt, ongoing colonizer, settler colonial nation that hasn't, completely won everything. There's still a population that is fighting, obviously, that's been hoarded into prison-like conditions in the Gaza Strip and surrounded in the West Bank and had most of its land completely taken over, which is now the so-called nation state of Israel. What they want is to suppress that population. And you're right, like there's a historical grounding of Palestinians and South Africans and other anti-colonial movements working together. And that there's still a thread of that throughout current history that tries to fight back against the sort of the Western controlled narrative that that when they give money to these African states and everybody else, they say just chill and let them be a part of it. Just chill, and then let's do some trade with them. Anything to make them normalize, which again is the fight and the goal. And lastly, they do it here in our communities, where they bump up with churches and cities that have black mayors and get contracts and say they're going to work and train the police. So Israel is always working to normalize itself. It does trips for church groups to go, including black church groups, to go to Jerusalem and to Israel, other parts of Israel, what's considered Israel proper, to learn about the culture and all that kind of thing. Again, anything to normalize it. And that's its tactic in this game. And so at least there are some people, again, some nation states in Africa that are still standing up, fighting back against that apartheid regime. And I think there's, the openings are greater now than it's been for a while. So
I also think it's interesting. Have you all noticed that since the trending that happened last year on social media, like more continuing human rights atrocities are not trending on social media, which makes me think that there was like a regrouping of, the powers that be of like, okay, like let's fix these algorithms a certain way, because there's been a lot of atrocities happening in Israel since last year, and yet it's like crickets.
Oh yeah. And I'm looking at I can see that foresee that here domestically. I'm sure that with all the uprisings and the continuous murders of police murders civilian murders by police, that after a while it's gonna start taking hold here as well. Because speaking of that, it's funny because of the fact that I'm getting a lot of reports of folks saying that they've been trying to share Black Power Media content, and they've been sending screenshots saying that you can't share this. This is something to effect that it's like dangerous content and some type of stuff, man. So we're looking into that. So we've been wondering, we're like, damn, we've been hitting real hard, like what's going on? But I have been getting a number of different folks sending screenshots saying that they can't share our stuff. So again, censorship and the whole banning process, of course, I mean, under a fascist regime, we expect that. So
yeah, that's actually the reason why. Oh, sorry, Kamal.
No. I just wanted to point out too. I wanted to go back because that distinction between the Organization of African Unity and now the African Union, because again, one was created out of a sense of Pan-Africanism, a sense of unity across the continent, and again with some semblance of fighting colonialism and figuring out, and again, at that particular time, some strong socialist movements in these individual countries. The African Union is born out of replicating the European system, right? And it shows in some ways that the defeat of those 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s movements and the European domination, which says pattern your international relationships, and i.e., again, accepting Israel, but pattern your international relationships and organizations and so forth after us, because we're the prime example. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I think that's part of the body politic that's still obviously going on in Africa. As you say, these coups that have happened, and again, some of the politics we may be in favor of, some we may not be, but these coups that are happening that are at least challenging some of the international order. Particularly, I was going to mention, I think a story that you mentioned a few weeks ago, with the French, and how some of these coups are actually kicking out or pushing back against the French and their long-term colonial interest in these nations.
Yeah, the African Union hasn't been the same, obviously, since Gaddafi. And that was I would say, the one chance possibly for the African Union to maybe try to go back down that road. But ever since he was taken out, there's not a country as powerful as Libya was. There's not a country that represents, there's countries that are, you could say, sovereign zones-ish, but they're still not completely self-sustainable. And so now we're kind of put in this place where these African leaders understand that the resources are controlled completely by outsiders. So they have to literally comply by their rules. And even in Libya, a really rich country that's lending to so many African countries, I think the United Nations seized all their riches. And so, I don't know what it's going to take at this point. Certainly not this African Union. And my mindset now is like away from the nationalist liberation towards more populist movements and trying to find ways for liberation outside of these governing structures, because it's just been so dampened and weakened that I don't see any other way out.
And I think that's one of the reasons, I'm sorry, real quick, that Libya, Gaddafi obviously was one of the main reasons Gaddafi was taken out, was just that, as let's say, as off as Gaddafi could be at times. There's no doubt that personality-wise, he was a strange dude, right? But his history, of course, again, is part of the anti-colonial struggle. And even though he was at a stage where he actually capitulated to a lot of Western demands to sort of be accepted or not hunted, let's say, by the West, he thought that would be best for him and the nation at the time. And as folks know, when Gaddafi was killed, Libya had one of the top, if not the top economy in Africa. And people don't mention that or point that out in terms of how well the economy was running along somewhat of a socialistic line. And let's keep that in mind. But I think the Western interest of not only payback against Gaddafi for all the other thing was just what you said. He still represented a voice of anti-colonial struggle, of talking about white supremacy, talking about European interests dominating Africa. And in the end, when they saw an opportunity to oust Gaddafi through the uprising that was happening, they obviously, led by your girl Hillary Clinton, took it, and Barack Obama took it and ran with it. So,
right. And I think that Gaddafi's Green Book is a book that should be added to folks' book list when you're talking about must reads, because of the fact that it's seldom talked about. But he definitely laid out a plan similar to Kwame Nkrumah's Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. So definitely if you all haven't jumped into that, make sure you grab Gaddafi's Green Book and get a little bit of a further look into his politics. But moving on to some more news. I know that this past weekend, I believe last Thursday, there was a situation that everyone's familiar with in Minneapolis, where another brother was murdered. And I understand that there's been, what do you call that? Police camera, what do you call those police camera joints? The
body cams?
Body cams. The body cam footage has been released and all that. But, I haven't had the heart to watch it because of the fact that I'm really tired of seeing, you know, folks murdered on camera, so on and so forth. But anyway, Amir Locke was executed, and the mayor of Minneapolis says that he's going to halt no-knock entries. Now, of course, we remember 2 years ago the situation with Breonna Taylor. We remember the situation with Katherine Johnson, a 92-year-old who was murdered here in her home. The situation with baby Boo Boo out in Georgia as well, a young child who they threw a flash grenade in, and all these were wrong houses. They threw a flash grenade in and blew a hole in his chest and part of his nose off. I believe he's 18 months old at the time. It was a case we worked on a few years ago, but you know, so we already know that these no-knock warrants have been, you know, they have a history of, you know, of block raids and all of that type of stuff. So again, this young man, we understand, was this 22-year-old Amir Locke was home on his couch, sleep, wrapped up in a comforter, and I guess they kicked the door down or entered the apartment in whatever manner they did, and you know, startled him, kicked the couch, and you know, woke him up. They claimed that he had a licensed handgun in his hand when he jumped up, or when he attempted to get up. The fact is, we understand that, you know, the warrant wasn't even for him, and whoever the warrant was for didn't even reside in that particular resident, you know, at that particular time or just period. So he was executed on the 2nd, according to his parents. His parents talked about how they spoke to him about, you know, how to deal with police. They went through regular training and so on and so forth. But the thing is, how do you deal with the police when they're in your house and, you know, you're in a deep sleep and all of a sudden you're startled and you're murdered? 2 of the officers who raided that particular house, 2 of the SWAT officers that came in and raided, they actually were involved in another case last year, I believe, with a brother by the name of Jaleel Stallings. Jaleel Stallings was shot by a group of Minneapolis police when he was just, you know, on the street. They decided that they were going to open fire with 40 millimeter rubber bullets. And him not knowing that it was a police van, he fired back, but he fired low, you know, because, you know, he didn't really want to hit anyone. And by the time they jumped out and yelled police or whatever, he immediately dropped his weapon, fell to the ground, and they beat the hell out of him, dislocated his eye socket and a number of other different situations. He was a truck driver. Luckily, he made it, and I believe there was a lawsuit. I don't know the status of that particular lawsuit right now. In this case right here with Amir, the usual suspects are involved. You have Ben Jealous. Ben Jealous. You have Ben Crump, who is serving as the attorney, and also one of Kamal's favorite activists, Mr. Blue Vest, will be helping to change the laws there. So again, once again, you have this. I forgot the dude's name. What is Blue Vest name?
D-Ray McKinnison.
Yes, I thought he was gone for a while, but
I have not heard of him for a minute. Wow.
Hey man, you know, I guess the money's getting low. That $40 million we talked about a couple of days ago, and you know, he's back on the scene, and they've brought him on to assist in this particular case. So you know, this is I mean, I don't even want to say that it's crazy. I don't even want to say it's insane because of the fact that it's the norm right now. You know what I'm saying? This young man you're not safe in your own skin in America. You know what I'm saying? In the United States, it don't matter if you're in your home. It don't matter if you're laid up in a blanket, whatever the case is. You know, if you don't have a gun on you, don't worry. They'll find something to say that you had. But the fact is, he doesn't have a record. You know, he was legit, and the man was just trying to sleep on his couch.
It also reminds me of the story, I guess, in Dallas a few years ago, where the policewoman claimed she was entering the wrong, or she thought she was entering her apartment. and wound up shooting the brother who actually lived there. So I mean, like you said, these incidents go on, and you're just not safe anywhere from it will always, and the police will always make up some story, and unless it's completely outrageous, right? It's so outrageous even they can't believe it, or again, it's captured on videotape somehow, which is still the one thing about the body cams that I'm in favor of is that some of this stuff you would only have the police's word about what happened, which would give them even more credibility, particularly in the justice system that works for them, if there wasn't any video, at least to see what really happens. I'm not claiming that the video has caused any real changes, obviously, because we've been having videos since Rodney King. But for the families and for even civil lawsuits to win judgments for the families, some of those videotapes have come in hand. But like you said, it's until we have a serious movement that challenges the police's ability even to police us. Not even about changing policy around how the police do things, although it's great that the no-knock warrants should be knocked out, right? There should not be any more no-knock warrants because there have been too many incidents of this happening. But of course, the police love their military tactics. They love to bust in, they get their adrenaline running. So they love to bust into people's homes and make claims about how dangerous these folks are and start shooting at them, because that's how they do. And that's how they're always going to do.
Yeah, every time one of these horrific events happen, I always say it's at this point, if we're trying to get justice for the situation, it's too late. I hate that to hear that Benjamin Crump, I don't know why Benjamin Crump and D-Ray are the go-tos. I don't know how it is that at this point, these people have any legitimacy in the eyes of these families, because these are people who come, they're ambulance chasers, they're people who will come after the fact, and then you'll be pushed to the side. We've seen this consistently. Then whenever the next person comes, you'll see them over there, and then you'll be left inside of the same situation. Maybe Crump might get you some money, and that's about it, And so I always say it's too late, because ultimately the goal is to stop the situation where the police can come into our homes, come into our communities, and do these types of atrocities. And at this particular point in our community, we don't have an organizational structure that even makes them think twice about doing certain things. At least, when you read about the Deacons of Defense, there would have been a lot of thinking about, can we roll up in here, kick these doors in, like what's going to happen? And so at this point, we're still not protected. We're still living this out of a situation where we're essentially waiting for the next person to go down, and we'll have to deal with the horrific stories. I didn't watch it either, because I just, I can't even watch the old videos that I have seen at this point, because it's kind of like a replay of just something you don't need to have inside of your mind and your spirit. But I hope that there's like a sincere dialogue about what has to be done before these things happen, because there's things that only we can do. We, the actual people who are in these communities, we, the actual people who are going to be affected. D-Ray, I'm sure, lives in a really nice neighborhood and is not going to be as affected. Maybe he might be subjected to police brutality, but probably not. I hope there's real conversations about what we need to build, because I think we do have to arm ourselves. We do have to be organized. We do have to push back. I don't see the state ever, the state as it is in existence, ever being safe for our people. And so when we come to that realization and accept it, then we're going to do other things, not try to get the police convicted. Hopefully he's convicted. Hopefully he's whoever shot the guns are in jail for, whatever amount of time. But that's not where our focus should be whenever it comes to things like this. We have to remember that when Trayvon Martin happened, we were so focused on Trayvon Martin's unfortunate death, not knowing that there was going to be a string of more people coming. And because we were not actively working to organize, there's still going to be a string of more people coming until we get woke to the fact that it's not going to change without us changing it.
I blame the Ben Crumps and the D-Rays on us as people, as organizers, because of the fact that we haven't made it uncomfortable for parasites to swoop down on our communities. The thing is, right now, when you're talking about proactive stances, it is imperative to build a national united front against fascism. There's no one organization that's going to save us. And if you think that, then you are delusional. You know what I'm saying? A single organization is damn near as bad as an individual trying to organize, because we don't have that type of insulation, we don't have that type of discipline, and we don't have the particular type of structure where any one organization can serve the community fully. You know what I'm saying? But what's happening right now is we're moving so egotistically that it's all about mine. How can you fight capitalism? How can you fight imperialism and have a me-mine type situation? There's no vanguard movement in the United States, and there'll be no vanguard movement in the United States unless, again, it is a united front. There has to be a united front against fascism, and that's one of the things that groups like the Panther Party was trying to put together back in the 60s. That's things that, groups like the RNA were trying to do. So this is, to me, that's the only viable solution. Anything else is like we're Putin in the wind. And to what you said a little bit earlier about, we didn't think there'd be more, string after the Trayvons. I did, and many of us did, only because of the fact that we know we haven't done exactly what you just said, as far as we haven't created an atmosphere, whereas folks would think twice. There hasn't been a proper redistribution of pain. You understand what I'm saying? The pain has to be democratic. It has to serve both sides. So once you know that it's not safe for you to do certain things, you're going to think twice. It's like a child. You can tell your child not to touch a stove 100 times, and they'll mess with you. They'll act like they're going to touch it, so on and so forth. But it takes that one time for them to put their hand on that stove, and they be like, God, this motherfucker hot for real. You got to tell them no more after that, because of the fact that they remember that pain. You understand what I'm saying? Once you remember the pain, you'll think twice. And that's what you was talking about a little earlier, being able to think it through. You know what I'm saying? If you know someone can whoop your ass, you're not just going to run up on them talking crazy. You're going to think twice. You know what I'm saying? So that's what has to happen. We have to have
I'm so sorry. I blame Al Sharpton really for, like, if I center it, even more than anybody in the last couple of decades, I think Al Sharpton created the sort of cottage industry that benefits for some people, that brings a benefit for some people off the killings of our folks. And at one point, in terms of his history, he did work in terms of United Fronts. He did work with December 12th movement and several other groups where they literally, they would shut the subway system down, right? Folks were jumping on tracks. They were actually scaring the city, and pushing back in a really strong way that made the city nervous. So at some point, and it wasn't like Al Sharpton was some paradigm of a leader at that time that I individually would want to follow, but at least he was engaging in certain tactics that I could support, along with other more militant organizations that they were sort of working around. And then at some point in Sharpton's life or career, he decided to have a career around this issue, cleaned himself up in terms of how he dressed, no more tracksuits. He got on the preacher suits. I guess he fixed up his jerry curls, his relaxer look. He kept the relaxer look, but he straightened it up a little bit, I guess. Started hunting, got himself a publicist and started hunting for respectability. And what came out of that respectability was the guise of, this is how you deal with police murders. You come, you get press and media, you get a lawyer for the family, which I do believe meant some kickbacks. You become the spokesperson for the family, and you settle it the old-fashioned way. You do marches, which are permitted. You go to court, you lose, then you sue, you win, right? Or the city settles, and then you move on to your next case, right? That's it. That's the formula. It's like, okay, we got that. We got our chunk. Family got their chunk. No real change is happening, but we all know it's going to happen again. So it's a cottage industry of how you take on police misconduct cases. And again, that system or formula has been passed down, and other folks gladly took it up when they felt they could move Sharpton out the way. And maybe they didn't purposely think they were adopting the same thing, but they've fallen into the same pattern. And you're right, Crump has become, for whatever strange reason, because I don't remember any particular case in which he's won outright or anything that he's done except settle lawsuits, but he's become now the go-to lawyer for these police misconduct cases. And then there's a whole host of different activists and organizers, as Sharpton has gotten older and gotten his MSNBC contracts and his radio contracts and makes money in other ways, who are like hunting down that's beyond the street money and ambulance chase and wait for the next death, but knowing that they're not doing anything proactive to make real system-wide changes, or to make the police nervous about their activities, or to guard the community by creating alternative formulas that is a buffer between our community and the police. None of that is on the table for them. What's on the table for them is using this formula that they've inherited for Sharpton and moving it forward for their own benefits. And we every 2 months, 3 months, maybe even less than that, we're back here with some sensationalized case that basically puts us back in the same place.
And, to go back to this, I know you all didn't agree with me with my stance on this, but I think that's why it was so dangerous as a precedent what happened to the Grandmaster J whole movement. I don't like everything about the movement. I don't think they're, the most authentic organizers or whatnot, but they had white people scared. That's one thing that we I think we can all agree on. They had white people scared, they had Klan scared. And that's why, to me, it's just the timing. They had to silence this movement, even though it was sloppy in some ways, or it wasn't the most ideological and whatnot, but they had to silence it in order to make sure that we don't see an alternative. And right now, I think for a lot of people, like specifically in the younger generation that, like I said, we talked about this previously, that have never seen the Black Panthers in action, have never seen the freedom fighters that actually were challenging the authority with being armed. And we saw one quick movement come up where you seen mass Africans who were marching into the face of danger with guns. And that was so quickly silenced to the point where it's like a hopelessness. Like, okay, if that didn't work, then what's next? And that's the real problem I see, that we haven't had more talk about. I'm not going to assume everyone feels this way, but I really do feel strongly like that's what we have to do. We have to find ways to be organized, number one, ideological, absolutely, but we have to also arm ourselves. And until we do that, we're just going to be having these same sad stories happening to our children, which is horrible to think about. And my heart goes out to the family, but we have to take that Second Amendment serious, is my opinion.
To your point, I think that I agree with you from the symbolism. Okay, but I wouldn't call that a movement. I think that if anything, what took place during that particular summer was a mobilization. It wasn't an organization, because if we were organized, then no one man could have caught a couple charges, and then the whole quote unquote movement is crushed. The reality is what happened, looking at it we have to remember that America thrives off of fear. Okay. And that's why gun sales, dogs, and all this other stuff, security, military, all that's necessary. So what Grandmaster J, whatever the hell his name is, what he did was, I don't think he put white folks in fear. I think he caused them to get more organized. And that's why on January 6th, I think that they expected a response from Africans in the African community, because of the fact that they came and they showed their force. When they show their force, it's a little bit different. There's usually, in many cases, they come along and there's casualties. With us, we're not bringing along casualties. You understand what I'm saying? Not in this particular modern age or whatever. It's kind of for show. White folks, when they get scared, they just arm up. You understand what I'm saying? So what was done was they showed a bunch of the news, the media showed Grandmaster J and all these folks on Stone Mountain with guns. But what does it matter if you're not busting those guns? If you're not going into the community? The difference between them and the Panther Party is the Panther Party actually set up shop inside of the community. They set up organizations. So if you're not setting up anything practical for people to see afterwards, then of course it's going to fall apart. You can't, when the Panthers got arrested in Sacramento and they changed the gun laws, that didn't affect the whole Panther movement. That forced them to become more creative with what it is they were doing. But see, the thing right now with these hashtag movements and these sensationalists, it looks good. And for folks who haven't seen, like you said, you know, many of us who weren't around when the quote unquote Panther Party was in full swing, yes, we looked at it and we were intrigued and we looked at it as hopeful and so on and so forth. And so much so that many of us didn't learn from the mistakes that were made. And we didn't count the mistakes. We just said, look at that picture with Huey. He looks tough. Look at this picture with Asada. Look at this picture with Angela with her fists up. The symbolism is great, but we have to move beyond that, and we have to be able to create movements, because in fact, if we're not creating movements, what we're doing is we're identifying who we are, who's who, so on and so forth, so that it can be crushed. But we also need clandestine movements. We need folks in the streets organizing. We need political education classes being held right in the community on the regular. And the one thing about Bunchy Carter, and I'm not going to take up all the time, but the one thing about Bunchy Carter, we hear these stories about when they would have parties, discos in LA. You know what I'm saying? Bunchy was a renegade Slauson. He was a quote unquote gang leader before he became a leader in the Black Panther Party LA chapter. But one thing he would do is, even at the parties, even at the discos, he'd jump up on the table and he'd start politicizing the folks. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see that with the Grandmaster Jay situation. It's just, we gonna go out there, we got our guns, and if somebody do something, we gonna whoop-de-whoop. But not one bullet was bust. Let me rephrase. Let me bring that back. There were bullets that was bust, but they ended up shooting each other. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. It was accidental.
I would only add that, and again, I haven't studied Jay in terms of where he was as politics. What I give credit for, though, is I don't think there's a problem. I don't have a problem with the public showing of marches that potentially could be alternative forces. I think some of those public displays, and I'm not expecting people to go out busting guns, because you're not going to be at this particular stage. People ain't being able to take on the police, the National Guard, and the Army. So I'm not necessarily looking for that either. And I do think there's a history of folks busting guns. And again, those struggles were destroyed by a more powerful force. So only when we're ready for that, or folks or there's a larger movement that can protect and surround that, would I expect something like that to happen. But I will say that, and again, not knowing his politics directly, you know, the public showing, and again, as we've talked about before, giving people time to grow and change, or to grow into some politics, or be impacted, who is obviously at some point capturing some audience prior to even getting the media sort of spotlight on them. And then lastly, I'll say, you know, somewhat in his defense, is whoever he was, he seemed to be dangerous enough for the feds to decide that they were going to target him with charges. And I don't know where those charges are at this particular point. I think we also have to be careful, because even if folks aren't a part of our movement, they don't come from where we come from, again, we got to give space. Hopefully, you know, if folks have some potential legitimacy for growth and training and public and political education. And again, I say that not knowing a lot about this brother at all, but you know, I don't want to just sort of cast him individually. I don't want to sort of just cast somebody like that aside, who is faced charges, is maybe even facing charges, has publicly done demonstrations with guns, seem to be organizing. Again, it could be something that wasn't going to develop. It could be something shady happening. But also, you know, potentially that brother could have got some politics. I just don't know.
Before we go to break, I just got one minor pushback, and that would be that I would buy that, what you're saying, Kamal, had I not saw videos of him at a Trump rally defending Trump, doing security for Trump. I would buy that if I didn't see the video of him at a Black Lives Matter rally taking off his shirt saying that all lives matter and clapping and the police and everybody shaking his hand and hugging him and all that stuff. Just a year and a half, 2 years prior to that. So if those cases weren't in effect, and these are videos that you can see online, it's not some mythical, magical shit that I'm just coming up with. If I didn't see him defending Trump doing security, if I didn't see him in the streets talking about all lives matter, taking his Black Lives Matter shirt off with a group of white folks in North Carolina, then I might say, you know what, because of the fact that we don't judge people based on where they're not, we judge them based on where they are and the potential that they can have. I'm not just going to just throw you out there for the wolves because of the fact that I don't feel you have politics. That's irrelevant. You can learn. We got on the job training, but when you come from a background like that, and then all of a sudden when shit pop off, now you like this right here, I question what is your motive.
Just real quick, I just want to add in that I think it's also relevant that I don't know if I said this on here, but his Facebook was also silenced and also his Instagram was silenced, which to me is kind of crazy for someone that's not convicted. But so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with any of those points. Again, this dude could be just another fame-seeking person who's using revolutionary politics to make himself big. But on the other hand, again, I never had any conversation with them. Don't know him, not in my circle. I just don't know where he was at the time of the arrest, so forth and so on, and what shift, that kind of thing. So I think it's always important to have some discussion or conversation to sort of filter out what the politics are, if any, right? And to see where this person is potentially just like full of shit, or this person is eventually useful. So but I don't dispute any of what you said. But again, I just point out that the government has charged this dude, and it seems like his charges are political charges. It's not charges which they just that just happen to happen. It's their charges based on the fact that they wanted to do something. So even an ineffectual movement, but one that talks about Black people having guns and just drawing Black people to it, is something that the government seeks out to stop and destroy, because putting in the mind of Black folks that we can be organized, there can be formations, there's gun training, that's a way to protect ourselves, is something that still, again, no matter what they think of the politics, they still wanted to stop.
Well, in the more the words of Malcolm, time will tell. Speaking of time, we bring on the ear to the doctor.
Yeah. What's good? Hey,
Okay.
Hey, it's a little dark in here. Check this out. Real quick, Tierney, what you got going on your show before you get up out of here?
Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about what happened to the EFF, the economic freedom fighters in South Africa. I think they have been doing some concerning moves, so I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming in here, doing your time with us on the Remix Morning Show.
You're not going to stay long?
What's that? No. I'm about to dip.
Oh.
Yo, man, Tierney be leaving like the air doctor when some shit gets started.
She knows the clock. She got the clock down. She's like, I know when it's time for me to be out.
Word.
No doubt.
Hey,
we appreciate you.
Since y'all talking about guns, I got a quick segment on gun safety on this next segment, so stick around.
Don't shoot yourself.
Right. Remix Morning Show.
Yeah. What's good, everybody? What's good? All right. So at this time right now, I wanted to put on a video I made. I talked to a sister named Toya in Nelson, and she was talking about gun safety. So let's get into it real quick so we can put y'all on to gun safety. So let's do it like this right here, right about now. Bam. out, everybody. Once again, this is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and today we are going to learn about gun safety and how to load a gun correctly. I have my special guest Toya here. Toya, let them know a little bit about you real quick.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Toya of Inside Out Protection. I'm all about firearm safety. I'm all about, women's protection, just making sure that you keep yourself protected.
Nice.
Everybody say protect the Black woman, but we got to protect ourselves. So that's what,
Listen, and I got to make sure I know how to load this gun right so I can help protect y'all. So
yes.
Show us
Okay.
What we got. What kind of gun we got here?
So here we have a Glock 26. First, I want to clear it. Make sure that it's clear.
Okay.
Okay.
Popped out. Said, hey, how you doing?
So we want to make sure that it's clear. So you always want to handle a firearm. Whenever you're handling a firearm, you want to make sure that you know the firearm safety rules.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you keep all firearms pointed in a safe direction.
Mm-hmm.
You keep your finger off the trigger. So you see I have my finger here.
Okay.
Not, on the trigger. It's not your trigger finger.
All right.
And you want to make sure that you're never pointing at anything you don't want to destroy, anything like that. So you want to make sure that it's clear too when you're dealing with a firearm. So that's why we have it locked here to the rear. I locked it back to the rear. And as you can see, I'm going to double check. You can see down the magazine well, it is clear.
All right.
Okay. All right. So handling, and you want to make sure that you keep that up that way.
This is the gun without the bullets right now. So you're making sure that everything is clear.
That it's clear. Making sure that everything is clear before you handle any firearm, and you want to make sure that you know those firearm safety rules. Google them, okay? Before you handle a firearm, or before anybody is handling a firearm around you. Like I see a lot of people pick up guns and they just want to, let me check this out. Make sure that finger's off the trigger. Keep the muzzle always in a safe direction. That's like priority. Never point at anything you're not willing to, like. You have to remember these things.
Finger off the trigger. Don't be a loser. All right.
Okay. All right, so here we have our magazine, right?
Right.
All right, and this particular magazine holds 10.
Okay.
You can see there, 10 rounds. All right, so we are loading our magazine.
The magazine, not the type you read, type you shoot with.
You want to make sure that you have it. I mean, some people you could just load it here, or and literally I'm just pressing around down because there's a spring here. And sliding that in. Okay. Or you can also use the surface if you feel like that's better.
All right. And then just slide it in. And now after you put the bullet in.
After you have your rounds in, always in a safe direction. You want to hold your firearm for safe protection. You want to make sure you're loading here, which is in your eyesight, right? So that you can see in front of you. Because if ever you have to, you want to get in the habit of making sure that things are in front of you so you can see what's going on in front of you. And you want to rack your slide. Right, and that sends around into the chamber. And there we are. We have a loaded firearm.
Bam! You see it right there. Toya in the building, showing that how you handle a gun safely and protect yourself. Make sure y'all, if you have a gun, use it right. Protect yourself.
Make sure you get some type of training. It's important to get training out here in these streets. Like a lot of people think, oh, let me just go buy a gun. Make sure you get training. Make sure that you, even if it's going at USCCA, is a very good source to reach out to, or go on the website. You can call them sometimes, but there's training on the website. There's training. You can, find people who are local in your area and go get training. I think that's very important when you are handling a firearm. You want to find NAGA, for example, the NAAGA, National African American Gun Association. Find a chapter in your area and find people who are training, because, before you want to know how to, if you get the slam gets jammed, your slide gets jammed, or, you want to know how to defend yourself and how to use it. You don't want to just have it and not know how to use it. So make sure you get training.
All right, that's it right here at the Remix Morning Show. This is Ear Doctor. This is Toya. We out. Peace. All right, so there it is. As you see, that is gun safety right here on the Remix Morning Show. Now, let's get back to our host. Oops. There's a lot of buttons over here. A lot of buttons.
Yo,
Yeah.
shout out to Toya Nelson. She puts it in, does that work. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. Hey,
Just want folks to know,
I definitely need to go to a facility to fire the gun and do all that. I've never been to one, so that's something I want to check out.
Well,
when I was in Mississippi, we used to go to they used to just find spots, and my man would open up his trunk and he had like a whole selection of rifles with the scopes and everything, and then we just sit back and shoot. But it was all that is still, like, I've done training, but it's still a little foreign to me again because it's like late in life. But I just want to let folks know, when I pick up a gun, my thinking is not going to be outside the gun. So you better not be. I'm gonna shoot everything. When I pick it up, I'm picking it up because I'm shooting everything near me. So everybody better be standing behind, because I'm just letting you know.
Call the duty. I mean, call the big dummy.
Come on, we're gonna make sure if we got to do anything, man, and we together, we're gonna put you in front of everybody.
I'm fine with that, as long as I'm loaded, lock and loaded. You know what I'm saying? Because once I put
my said he said he ain't bust a gun, and you told me you're gonna shoot everything in sight.
Everything. Once I pick it up, it's all.
Hey, I bust the gun. It just wasn't at no. Anyway, I catch y'all on the next break. Peace.
All right. Welcome to the Remix Morning Show. You can learn. You learn gun safety and how not to be safe with dealing with some of our hosts. Anyway,
again, my wife said, like, oh, that's what you need with your morning coffee, a little gun training, a little gun safety training. It's like, that's right.
All you need.
That's right. That's what you need.
Yeah, Toya's dope though. Definitely shout out to Toya, and and so many others out here that's putting in this work. Matter of fact, the guest that we have that'll be coming up at the 9:25 hour. Her husband actually is a licensed firearm instructor amongst other things here in Atlanta area. So, there's no excuses, man. If you want to learn how to defend yourself, you know what I'm saying? There's plenty of different facilities and teachers online and in person, especially if you're in the Atlanta area. We have some real dope folks out here. A lady with a gun, our sister Yolanda, who runs that. Excuse me. We have the Urban Survival Preparedness Institute, which I co-chair with Balogun. We have Professor Griff out here who's doing training as well. You have a few different Black gun clubs. I can't think of all of them right now, but shout out to all the brothers.
Rashid McCall, who does a lot of
Rashid.
Yeah, got gun training, security services. Yeah. Yes,
Rashid's dope as well, for sure. You know what I'm saying? So that just takes me back to when we're talking about patrolling our community and also decentralizing police. You know what I'm saying? We have what it takes to train and teach, but it's the organizational discipline and it's the lack of, like I said, a united front. Again, once we get into our heads that we can have our little units, but we need to be a part of a major force. Even if we look at the system that they've created, excuse me, wow. Even if we look at the policing system here in the States or the military, you know what I'm saying? Everything is uniform across the board. You know what I mean? And we have to get to that point. If we don't get to that point, then again, we'll keep on coming up with these stories back to back to back to back.
I know the movement a couple of months ago. Not months ago, a few years ago. And one of the folks I know who started it, I'm not sure the brother wants me to mention his name, so I won't. They started the Huey P. Newton gun clubs, and for a while, those things started taking hold. And I think across the country, there's a lot of obviously a lot of Black folks, particularly folks from the South, who have had hunting culture and the rest of it. I think even Killer Mike, whose pops was a cop, but also would talk about hunting culture. Like, so, Black folks are obviously very comfortable with guns. The question becomes, as you said, how comfortable we are defending ourselves and not just shooting raccoons, with them guns, or hunting with those guns. So, so those are some of the things that, we as a people, again, have to continue to have conversations, build movements, organizations around, and work together with, right? So, it's all in the work. It's all in the work. It's not going to happen until the work starts making it happen. So,
no doubt. Look for some urban survival preparedness classes coming from some of us on this network in the spring. So, definitely, we really, really have to, stay prepared. Like they say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. We got time for a couple stories before our guest comes on at 9:25. You want to take the lead? Come out.
Yeah, I got one that wasn't on the run sheet, but this one struck me as important for us to talk about, just because it dips into, again, all the conversations we're having about where we're at in this country. So the Supreme Court restores Alabama voting map that another court had said hurt Black voters. A special three-judge court had ordered lawmakers to withdraw the lines, saying Black voters have less opportunity than other Alabamians to Alabamians?
I don't know. That's,
Am I doing the ear doctor today? I think it's Alabamians too.
Sounds New Yorkers, Alabamians. I don't know.
For us, it does, right? Alabamians to elect their favored candidates. So basically, the very conservative Supreme Court, via 5-4, the Supreme Court that gutted the section of the Civil Rights Act that said that changes in southern states to voting rights, to voting laws, had to be first approved before they went through. And since the Supreme Court gutted that, the slave enslaving states, the slaveholding states, have done all they can. I shouldn't say all they can. They slowly began to push back on the ability of folks to exercise their right to vote without it being sort of undergirded by a lot of hurdles. So, things short of a poll tax are starting to pop back up, and with that, we also have gerrymandering through the redistricting that's been happening, so that folks are locked in. These states become locked into a certain party's control. So again, this is not necessarily about how voting in and of itself is going to save us as a people, but this is about how voting is a tactic, and how the other side, of course, does everything it can to control the voting apparatus so that they can have quote unquote legitimate power through running, particularly at the state level, and then at the federal level, these institutions, which of course have vast resources at their disposal. And so from here in Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, other places are continuing, and they're only going to be emboldened, of course, because of their hold over the Supreme Court, but they're continuing to enact these statutes, which are closing voting poll places. Again, the having to show ID, cutting back on early voting, all these things that have been proven to bring out more folks of color, particularly Black folks, to the polls, are being walked back. And I think soon they're going to get really, really brave and start doing things that we haven't seen since the 1950s. Which again will set off hopefully some spiral reaction. But the fact that we get locked, my only critique, of course, not my only, but my biggest critique is that we get back locked into this idea that our only struggle will be around voting. But there's but I have no pushback whatsoever about part of that struggle right now is around securing the ability to get people out who are really bad for us. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that, what you're saying is on point. And I think that some of those new tricks or old tricks that you're talking about being revisited will certainly take place here in the good old state of Georgia with Stacey Abrams running. I know that Purdue, her opponent, said that she would be governor over his dead body. And I think with all the craziness that went on around the Trump situation, and Biden, and I think it's a powder keg, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get to a point where it's actual bloodshed at the polling places, because of the fact that these white folks are serious about this whole election thing. They're serious about power, and I think that to a great extent, a lot of and again, of course, we're not pro-electoral politics. However, we understand the tactics, and I think that a lot of our folks are still operating as if they're in the 60s. You know what I'm saying? They're operating like we're still, still on some we shall overcome type situation. And I think that, it's going to be hell to pay if folks aren't prepared. It's crazy because of the fact that there's a situation where a woman in Memphis just got 6 years because she was a convicted felon and she tried to vote. You know what I'm saying? So she was sentenced to 6 years and a day. So this is the type of madness that's going on. Here you have all of these laws broken when it comes to election tampering and so on and so forth. You have all the bullshit that Trump came up. Rudy Giuliani, if he was black, he'd be under the prison right now. You know what I'm saying? But there's so many different, loopholes when you have this white skin privilege. Yeah. So
and you control the court system, and you control the police system, and you control the jail system. All of that gives them the ability to do exactly like, so I if I'm not mistaken, I obviously think it was a black woman that you might have been talking about. There's been other cases where black folks in particular, and we even had it with Jaleel Montequin, former political prisoner. When he was released, they told him he could register to vote, and then they tried to say, no. The fact that you registered, even though you were told, given a piece of paper, we were trying to use that as a way to put you back in the prison. And so they'll use their tools as they see fit. They'll use every and any tool available to retain and keep power. We're the ones, I think, who get suckered into thinking it's all about electoral politics, and we put all that eggs into that basket as opposed to having that multiple strategy. That's like, all right, while we're doing this, as you talked about that united front, while we're doing this over here, and we're getting all this cash, we're going to support the folks on the ground base building who are doing that. We're going to buy property over here so we can control that. We're going to create this other formation to do radical organizing so that, the worst case scenario, they do what Malcolm talked about, right? It's like, the fact that they scared of me means they might give in to a little bit more of your demands. And that helps us all anyway. So there's the strategy that involves making sure that there's several different things happening at the same time, as opposed to allowing ourselves to be put into the place where the electoral strategy somehow dominates or becomes the main strategy, because that's what the media tells us that we should do. And that's what the funders tells us that we should do. And so then we buy into it, because we get hooked up with the Democratic Party. That's the thing that we usually advocate has to come to an end, because we understand that if we just acquiesce and do what they want us to do in their system, the end goal is that we're going to be swallowed up by the Democratic Party and no real changes are going to happen whatsoever.
Right. And the sad thing about it is we have so many Africans who are distracted by the thought of the Democratic Party. I think that we're still on this whole Black Lives Matter situation. You know what I'm saying? That whole mindset. And and there's no disrespect to folks who are using, like you said, these tactics. But the reality is it's a sidetracking of the real problems, of the real issues. You know what I'm saying? And it's only so much, even if you get everyone you wanted to ever be in office, the system itself will only allow will only give us whatever trinkets that can exist. And I think that we are failing ourselves by putting so much energy and effort into a system that we know will not benefit us. I think that it's almost like, like you have the hamster wheel or a treadmill. The hamster go as fast as he could possibly go and end up going nowhere fast. And that's what the Democratic Party, that's what the Republican Party is. That's what electoral politics is on a national level.
And Stacey Abrams is the perfect example of that really quick, because again, this is this black woman who the right wing hates, right? And they call her a socialist and they demonize her and so forth and so on. And so, and the fact that she's a black woman and the community gets behind her and supports her. But we know when we analyze her politics, right, her actual politics, she's a moderate Democrat. She's not calling for anything radical change, radical or different. When George Bush's father, George Bush Sr. died or whatever. She had a whole statement about the president. She's a very performative politician with no kind of radical politics, at best moderate to liberal politics, but so much energy is going to be put behind her campaign.
Yes.
That it's going to be, it drowns out the ability to impact things that are happening across the state in different ways. And it means when you challenge her, you're going to have all this other pushback who are not dealing with the politics, but who will be rushed to her defense. And then that's what we're going to get. We're going to get all this defense of her without the ability to critique and push someone who possibly, based on what happened with the senatorial races here, will get elected.
Yeah. So again, like you said, it's once again being satisfied with symbolism. You know what I'm saying? The first Black woman governor. We had the first Black president. You got the first Black vice president. And what has it gotten us? Where have we gone? Have we advanced in the Black community? I mean, I'm really like, I really need to know, because, I'm somewhat confused. Maybe you all know something that we don't know. But speaking of that, man, we're going to take to the ear doctor real quick, because we have a guest coming up, and we know the ear doctor got something that he going to hit us with. It's going to be off the charts.
No doubt, no doubt. So I was watching this comedy special that came out the other day, and they was talking about, the comedy club out in LA. And I seen my boy Robin Harris, and I said, you know what? Let me do a little bit of research on Robin and make sure y'all know. For the ones who don't know, y'all gonna find out today. Let's get it.
You're good.
Remix Morning Show.
Yeah. What's good, everybody? Once again, make sure y'all hit that like button, that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so y'all know what's good and what's going on right here on Black Power Media. So, like I said, I do want to take it to the brother Robin Harris. That's right. You might remember him from various movies like House Party and stuff, but he goes by the name of Robin Hughes Harris. He was born August 30th, 1953. Straight from the Chi, and then wind up moving out to LA. You also might know him for Bebe's Kids. That's right. He also got an Independent Spirit Award for best supporting male actor in House Party. That's right. He did his thing. Pretty much he was the man. He was the man at the, what was it? The Comedy Act Theater. That's right. He was the master of ceremonies there. That was a big thing in the mid-'80s. He would go around and he would just be torching everybody in the audience. And then he made his big acting debut in House Party. And then he was in a bunch of movies, yo. Don't sleep on him. Because he did Bebe's Kids. He did House Party. He did Do the Right Thing. He was in Harlem Nights. I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. So he was Mo Better Blues. He was in a bunch of movies, so y'all need to definitely check him out. But he wound up having heart problems and had made his transition. The brother was only 36 years old and had a heart attack in his hotel room and passed away. But that's the man right there. You know what I'm saying? He was about to really be that next super big comedian out there for those who didn't know. So that's what it is. Just wanted to give you all a little light on no other than Robin Harris. Now, let's get back to our Remix Morning Show. Now we do. What's going on with Kamal over there? Darkness.
He darknesses. He tried to disappear on us and whatnot. But what's good, man? That's good, man. I missed you. What you was talking about on Robin Harris. I had to do my old man thing. Go use the bathroom real quick. Know what I mean? Ear doctor talking about, yeah, just keep going. Nah, brother, we got things to do. Anyway.
Like, I gotta handle grown man business.
Yeah, stop playing. Welcome back, Kamal.
I thought y'all was going straight to the interview.
Oh, did you?
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Problem
anyway.
all the time. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Kamal.
need to, yeah.
Kamal the thinker. Give us your thinking pose, Kamal. Anyway, check it out, the Remix Morning Show.
Well, rock out. I definitely want to check this interview out. So I'll catch y'all.
True.
No doubt, no doubt. So yeah, so definitely we have a dope interview coming up right about now. We have a special guest. This particular guest is she began her professional career as a hardcore hip-hop artist by attracting attention in the summer of 1999 with her appearances on JT Money's hit single Who That, 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 Who That. They reached #1 on the rap single charts. They remained on the charts for 8 weeks and won rap single of the year at the 1999 Billboard Music Awards. Yes, and you know, she went on to perform and record, and she got disenchanted with the music industry, and she was like, F that, I'm gonna take another route. You know what I'm saying? She's still recording right now, and she's joining us today. So in a few seconds, we'll be back with Soulé. Peace, Soulé, what's happening? Your mic's on mute. Okay. We got you on mute. Okay.
All right, I got it now. Peace, brother. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, man? Happy to
I'm
join.
doing well.
Yeah, happy to see you early this morning.
Happy to be here.
No doubt, no doubt. So yeah, man. I wanted to bring you on because of the fact that you know, we know that it's a lot that is going on in the industry itself, and some of us have had the opportunity to watch your transformation. So I kind of wanted to, you know, I wanted to kind of talk about your introduction to the music industry and what made you decide that, look, I'm gonna hang my hat up and I ain't even rocking with y'all no more. How that come about?
Right. Yeah. So I was, I mean, music was always a part of my life. I grew up in a musical household. My mother was a jazz singer and a gospel singer, and, you know, music was just ingrained into, you know, into our upbringing. And so I always had this inclination, you know, my family, very musical. My cousins, you know, a lot of my cousins are singers, producers. One of my cousins sang in Sounds of Blackness. One of them produces for, you know, a lot of pop artists and R&B artists. So very musical family. And so coming up, I always knew I wanted to entertain, to be in entertainment and music in some way. And so when I was, I probably was 5 or 6, and I heard Rapper's Delight and wanted to, I was like, ooh, I can do that. I was literally like in first grade rhyming that. And it just, hip hop captured me. And so, long story short, because it could be a very, very long story of how and the ins and outs, but I had a deal when I was a teenager. We ended up not signing, and my father thought it wasn't a good deal. Ended up going to school and, you know, learning some other things, but music kept calling me. And then ultimately I ended up with a record deal on DreamWorks Records through Red Zone Entertainment with Tricky Stewart, and they produced my project. I put one record out. I think I had a 7-album deal. It was a 7-figure deal for, I want to say 6 or 7 projects. But after I put out the one album, I started feeling like, because I was in the industry, but I was never of it. So I didn't really like to partake in a lot of the things that other people did. I would be, move my earring, I think it might be clicking against this, my headphones.
Okay.
You know, I didn't hang out. I didn't like to go out to clubs. I didn't like to party. You know, I like to make music and perform and be creative and write, but I would be in my room reading books and watching documentaries and, you know, being a nerd, as they would call me. So, but I started getting this, you know, this inner prompting that I no longer wanted to be a part of what was being pushed and promoted in quote unquote urban music, what was being pushed primarily to a Black audience, even though others were partaking of that music. My spirit started calling me to calling me out of that. And I literally remember hearing, you know, a voice asking me, is this what I wanted for my children? I had 2 daughters at the time. I was pregnant with my third, and I ultimately have 4 daughters. But, you know, I didn't want to be that example. I always knew the power of sound, the power. My mother always reminded me of the power of the tongue and how our words create, you know, our reality. And so as I was looking around at what was around in the industry and what was being created with the power of this sound, you know, sound is one of the most powerful, transformative energies that we have on the planet. You know, sound brought everything into creation. And I didn't want to be a part of that anymore. I didn't want to be a part of the negative, destructive programming, even though people can listen to my old project and say, oh, but it was, you know, it was inspirational in ways, and in ways it was. And there were positive messages in ways too. And I always joke that, you know, littered with all the profanities, but yeah, there were some positive messages in there, but the direction that I was being led to go down and where they were trying to groom me to go, it was not resonating with my spirit. So I left, and I was blessed to be able to negotiate out of my record deal without owing any money, without losing. Well, I mean, you can say I lost money because I didn't make the other albums, but I didn't walk away owing anything. I walked away free and clear and left and went on this spiritual journey that's been over 20 years now. I left the industry after the first album in my 20s. So I'm also not, you know, you hear people sometimes say, oh, you're just talking about the music now because you got older and you don't like that music now. But for me, that wasn't the case. I left in my late 20s. You know, I was in my 20s when I said, this is not it.
I mean, that right there is real honorable, because of the fact that here it is, you saying you have a deal with DreamWorks, which would have been a dream for most artists, period. And you're saying, look, my conscience wasn't allowing me to continue to go in that direction. Right. That's pretty heavy, because of the fact that there's so many people that know better that are still willing to sell their soul and sell the souls of others to, you know, to make that check.
Right.
I heard something about a particular manager that you had. This is a little side note real quick. Who happened to be the mayor of Atlanta. How did that happen?
He actually, Kasim Reed, he actually wasn't my manager. He was my lawyer. So, you know, he was practicing law before, you know, he was the mayor. Okay. So he negotiated my record deal with DreamWorks. He negotiated my publishing deal that I received also. And then he also was the man that helped negotiated me out of the deal. So whatever magic he wielded that was able to negotiate me out of the deal without owing them any money, I'm grateful for him. So yeah.
Wow, a broke clock is right twice a day. So I ain't gonna hold that against you, seeing Reed being your lawyer. but I know that you've always been into the arts as well. You are were and are a martial artist. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I practiced martial arts since I was a child. My brothers, you know, we grew up watching Kung Fu theater on Saturdays. I had have 2 brothers, and so they always wanted to watch Kung Fu theater and fight. So this is what we did. And my father practiced karate in Japan, you know, in the early 70s, late 60s, somewhere in there. So it was just a part of what captivated me. And so I practiced karate as a young child, and then taekwondo, and then kung fu, and so I ultimately ended up getting a black belt in kung fu and Tien Shin Pai. So it's, you know, for me, it was originally, I think as a child, it was the, you know, kids want to play fight, and, you know, it looks cool. And then as I started learning more about the inner workings of, you know, and the spiritual side of the arts and the martial arts, that was what captivated me more. So that became a core practice in my life along this 20-year journey, as well as my yogic practices and a plethora of other spiritual practices that I've, you know, studied or delved into. Yoga, the yogic science being my the guiding practice that really leads me today. And that's been a really long time too. So yeah. And then, you know, Griff, my husband, you know, he's a martial artist too. So we we have that in common.
Shout out to Griff. I don't know. I think you could take him. I saw a picture and whatnot. putting your foot over his head and whatnot. So, you know,
I'm just more flexible, so I can kick higher, but he would
okay.
actually take me in. He's stronger than me
So,
physically.
so Griff ain't home doing splits and whatnot.
See, I'm not. He's probably listening in.
I know. I'm beginning to call and feel my yo, but anyway, so I'm glad that Channel 5 paid off. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember we used to watch the little karate movies on Saturday and Sunday back in the day.
Yeah.
And you know, a whole lot of people in our neighborhood got their ass whooped because of the fact that they thought they could actually fly.
What they would, right.
It didn't work. It didn't work. Tell us about your spiritual journey. And the Devi Tribe.
Devi Tribe Wellness. Well, Devi Tribe Wellness is my wellness company that I studied along this journey. The journey is never a straight path. It's usually this winding, spiraling journey of remembrances. And so as I on this journey of leaving the music industry and going down this path of remembrance. So I studied herbs and plant-based nutrition. So, my mother was very much a gardener and into herbs and plants. And so I'm a clinical herbalist, and Devi Tribe Wellness is the company that I create herbal wellness products. And, I do clinical consultations. Occasionally, I don't do them as much anymore, but so Ayurveda wellness practices, plant-based nutrition, clinical Western herbalism, yoga, traditional tantra. I'm a birth doula, teach sacred dance. So there's a lot of different modalities that go into what I do as far as healing practices and working. I work primarily with women, though I do work with men and women, but the primary focus of what I do is women's health and wellness. So Devi Tribe Wellness, Devi meaning goddess in Sanskrit. Based off of my yogic initiations is where that was birthed out of.
Wow, nice. How important has the spiritual journey been? Because of the fact that a lot of times, and I'm glad that you talked about the different studies and practices with it, because of the fact that usually when folks think of yoga, they think of peace and tree huggers and shit like that. And just walk around with a jug of alkaline water and you can't defend yourself. But you said you've been kicking ass for years. So
no, you said I've been kicking ass for years.
I was just agreeing with you.
I studied the martial arts.
Oh, okay. I ain't gonna say nothing about you kicking Griff ass. I witnessed some things. But anyway, we'll go ahead though.
Wait, what was the question now? You done made me.
I just messed up the whole thing.
You messed up the whole thing.
How important was the spiritual journey? I mean, like, in grounding and foundation, you know what I'm saying? How does that, what role has it played in your life, and what kind of changes have you noticed?
I mean, the spiritual prompting and calling is what pulled me out of the path I was on in the first place. And then I always, as a child, I always had this deep connection to spirit. So I was the one, I grew up in a Christian household initially. And then, so we always had this, we had prayer boxes and all this. So I was the one, like as a little kid, I'm like talking to God and playing around with more esoteric aspects that are frowned upon in traditional westernized, bastardized Christianity. But I would sit around writing notes and write notes to God and these prayers and putting them in the box, and always really believing that what I spoke, what I prayed for was going to manifest. Now that, again, ultimately led me down a different journey, a different spiritual path, different paths in life, but it was always very much a part of, who I am, how I came here. And, it's everything. We are spirit, we're all souls having a journey. That's what we are. We're in these, these physical bodies, but ultimately we're souls having a journey. So the spiritual journey is everything. It's for us to negate that is we're negating who we are. We're negating a part of ourselves. We're fragmenting our existence. So we take that and put that in one separate box. So that's the spiritual or religious aspect. And this is my physical, worldly aspect. And that split is very damaging. And so, coming back into the knowing and understanding that we are souls having a journey. and that all of it is inherently spiritual. Everything is coming into that, coming back into the knowing, the wholeness of that, and that we are not just these physical beings that have spiritual experiences, and that putting the pieces back together that have been fragmented, where it's been separated, and the splits that have happened is necessary for our own personal transformation, as well as for the collective healing of humanity. So we have to come back to that remembrance. So it's that part is everything, that is the journey, the journey of the self, this journey of the self, this through the self back to the self, coming back to remembering who we truly are. So, and that's how we come back into this wholeness. So that's the spiritual piece is everything. It's everything.
Nah, that's dope. So you went from entertainment to entertainment.
That's right.
Yeah. And with that, you're still putting out dope music. I just you had a number of fly videos over the past couple years. Can you talk about your can you talk about some of your latest projects?
So the project that first I want to say I never thought that I would record again. I never, when I left the industry, I had no desire to do music, to be involved in. At that time, early on in my spiritual journey, it was still that split there, and believing that, one, just feeling that there was no, I was like, who is the audience for this? For what I'm even feeling inside. I didn't feel like there was a path, there was an audience, there was any way to put out what I was feeling, what I was thinking, what I was going through, what I was learning. And I just felt like that wasn't something that was in the cards anymore. And then as I continued on my journey, I kept getting this message that I couldn't leave, that one record, that one album as the only musical representation. With as powerful as music is, I couldn't leave that as the only musical representation in this earth realm. So that I had to create another project and projects that now reflected the level of growth, the level of change, the level of awakenings and awareness and remembrance. Because what I was learning and going through on my path was not just for me. It wasn't just for me to have this transformation, and but it was for me to share, and not just through the spiritual healing modalities of yoga and traditional tantra and nutrition and holistic divine wellness in various ways, and sound healing, those modalities, but through the same medium that brought me onto the mainstream at that time in the first place. So all of the programming that I had done, even though I had only done one album, I had to go back and now atone for that. And part of that was creating a new project. So I created this project called Encoded, the album, and it came out 20 years to the date of my first album, in September of 2019. And then COVID happened, so we didn't really, do any shows. And we did a couple of shows, but we didn't really tour too much, do shows and promote it very much. But people just found out about it, word of mouth, me sharing the videos. And so we actually plan to re-release the project sometime this year with some added bonus tracks. And then I'm working on a mantra and meditation project that will go along with it, almost like an old school B-side to the project.
Word.
Yeah.
No, that's dope. That's real dope. Hey man, definitely. We know you got you have some other things coming up as well. Some classes.
I do. I teach a twice a year through. I have a goddess temple. So this goddess temple of love is the temple that was birthed out of this journey, and that is all about this journey of helping women to reclaim their divine feminine essence, to remember their divine feminine essence, and to also remember that it does not mean the suppression of the divine masculine, that it is working side by side in our respective roles, so that we can really remember our true nature as yoga being a state of union and love, and becoming these alchemists of love, remembering that we set the tone, you know, as women, as mother. Mother was always the first guru, the first teacher of the child. And so that we see what's happening out in the world, we see what's going on, and we have to get the mothers back in divine alignment, walking in their deep feminine essence, because right now women have been very heavily, overly, distortedly masculinized. Even no matter how pretty you are, no matter how beautiful you can dress up, there's still a very heavy masculine energy for many reasons, and none of them any fault of anyone's own who's living in this present time. We're talking about thousands of years of conditioning and programming. And so we're reclaiming, you know, our divine feminine essence. We're reclaiming being the nourishers and the nurturers, and really becoming conduits between heaven and earth, not trying to be overly masculine, overly hypersexualized or shut down, or, you know, but coming into true balance of what it really means to be a divine feminine woman that transcends an outer look. So twice a year, I do this 12-week journey called Embodying the Goddess. And it's been, you know, it has been extremely transformative and powerful for the hundreds of women who have come through. And so that's offered twice a year, in the spring in March and in September. So the next one is coming up March 23rd. And all of that is at my temple site. It's goddesstempleoflove.com. And then I'll be performing on a pay-per-view conscious hip hop special that comes on in March, also with Brother Jay from X Clan and Public Enemy and Rock, and it's a couple other people I'm forgetting. I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting. We just got this information, so I'll be performing on that as well. So I'll share that with you.
No doubt.
At another time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely push it, and maybe we can give away some tickets on the RemiX Morning Show for folks who want to check it out. But we will be, pushing it and letting folks know that it sounds like a real dope concert. Matter of fact, I think Griff and I will be doing some things next week on the platform as well. Hey, we want to thank you, Soulé, for coming through early this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And
always a pleasure.
No doubt. You one of my only sisters that I actually like these days. But anyway.
So we got to change that. So we got to work on the sisters, so there's more that you actually like.
Phone start buzzing as soon as I said that.
Yeah, they gonna get you for that.
Hey, for the music, where can folks get your latest project? What's the website for that?
They can get that Encoded project is on all the major streaming platforms. They can go to iamsoulé.com also, IAMSOLE.com, but Encoded is on all the major streaming platforms, and all the videos are up on YouTube. You can search them as well.
No doubt. Appreciate you coming on, Soulé. Give Griff the love for me. Give him a hug, like a bear hug or a rear naked chokehold, something like that.
That's from you.
For the love. But anyway, we appreciate you. We'll see you again soon.
I appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
No doubt. You check it out, the RemiX Morning Show. That was Soulé. And stick around. We're going to be right back with you with some more.
All right.
What's up? We back. Ear Doctor had a flashback over there. You kind of look like JT Money, Ear Doctor.
Anyway,
maybe not.
Hey, yo, you know what? I just want to say, it's an interesting conversation. You know how we talk about the chat room and everything, but the conversations going on was, what do you identify yourself as? Black American, African American, African in America. Because, you could go back and you could say, I'm from Kemet. A lot of people don't know about Kemet. Before that, you could say I'm African, but then that's named after Africanos. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what do you do? But at the same time, I think African is the most unifying word that unifies us all if we're supposed to move forward. What's your thoughts?
For the most part, I'm like, you know what? Whatever we want to call the continent that we were brought from, except if you've immigrated later, there's a western part of that continent and now they're nation states, that's where you're from. That's mostly, and so study those. Sometimes they got the DNA thing. You can go back and figure out more exactly, in terms of scientifically. But those are the areas we're from. So if people are really interested in direct lineage, then they probably need to study those areas, encounter the good, bad, and ugly. The most beautiful part about the continent was that it was of our making before Europeans or anybody else invaded. So the good, the bad, and the ugly is all about what we have made it and what we could have done with it before our areas were invaded. So it's not any panacea of whatever living, in my estimation, but it's ours. It was ours. It was us to mess up. It was us to make beautiful, and other folks intervened. And so no Americans here, for me, you know what I mean? I would never refer to myself to that. I do use the term. I have used the term New African, politically speaking. I'm a revolutionary nationalist. That's where I rest my head on. And I'm a socialist, which is incumbent upon calling yourself a revolutionary nationalist. But yeah.
Well, what about Pangea? Could we call ourselves Pangeans?
What's the genes for? What's the Pangean?
Pangea is when all the continents was put together before the big split and divide.
If the history was different in terms of how the world after the divide had happened, potentially. I mean, we're all humans, but obviously just because we're all humans don't mean we're all treated like humans. And so I'm not ready to unite with folks who have destroyed, killed, polarized, taken from my folks. People need to again, good people are good people, but until the ideology of white supremacy and capitalism were destroyed, we won't be at war.
I'll quote Stick from Dead Prez. I'm not American, punk, Democrat, or Republican. Yeah. So I would say that I think that we get caught up again, sidetracking of the slave. Whatever you identify yourself as, right now we are oppressed people and we're looking to get back to where we need to be. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I'm anti-capitalist. I consider myself an African revolutionary. You know what I'm saying? I don't consider myself American. There's nothing, I don't enjoy the benefits of quote unquote being American. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that you would have to put an hyphen on your joint and say you are African American, says it all. But yeah, I'm not, people always want to know, you're a Rasta, you're this, you're that. What I eat don't make you use the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? So all you know is that I'm fighting on behalf of us as a people. All the other shit sound good in theory, but I mean, you can call yourself king, a czar, you can call yourself God, whatever you call yourself is great, but you still living under an oppressive society. You know what I mean?
Doubt.
So let's worry about overthrowing this regime and then figure out, we know what they are. We need to figure out what the hell we are and live what we are. It's more important that we live what we are than say what we are. But you can say you vegan and you can sneak around the corner and eat, pork chops and shit. You know what I mean? It's not what you say you are, it's what you do. What you are is what you do.
No doubt. I'm a spirit rocking a human outfit. You know what I mean? It's really about your ethics. Where are you at? Are you about that good? Are you about that bad? What's the balance? You know what I mean? So it don't really matter what you about, because you got black devils, white devils, red devils, you got goddesses, you got everything. It's really about what you choose to be. You could either be good, you could be bad. What's up?
Yeah,
so that's what I look at.
There we go.
Right.
I think I want to hit one more story because it's very important. Day to day.
956. What story are you hitting at 956? This must be a really good story.
Is it 956? Well, it's a historical piece, so I want to just hit it real quick.
Well,
today, no doubt. Today, we commemorate the 54th year anniversary of the state troopers killing 3 black students in Orangeburg, South Carolina. On this day, February 8th, 1968, white state troopers fired into a mostly quote-unquote African-American crowd on the campus of South Carolina State College, a historically black college in Orangeburg, South Carolina, in what became known as the Orangeburg Massacre. The troopers shot and wounded 28 people and killed 3 black male students, Samuel Hammond, 18, who was a freshman from Florida, Henry Smith, 18, a sophomore from Marion, South Carolina, and Delano Middleton, a 17-year-old who is actually an Orangeburg high school student. 2 days before the shooting, the students had attempted to desegregate a local whites-only bowling alley. When the owner refused to serve the students, violence ensued, leaving 9 students and 1 officer wounded. On the day of the shooting, students again protested the segregated bowling alley, this time building a bonfire in the street, escorted by police armed with carbines, pistols, and riot guns. The fire department arrived to extinguish the fire. Police then fired into the crowd as students fled for safety. Police later claimed they were attacked first. The South Carolina governor at the time, Robert McNair, blamed Black Power advocates, quote unquote, for the violence and insisted officers had fired in self-defense while under attack from campus snipers. Witnesses' accounts from reporters, firemen, and students contradicted this story, and they reported the officers had fired onto the crowd without warning. No evidence was ever presented that the protesters were armed. This is where Cleveland Sellers, who was program director for SNCC at the time, was convicted of rioting for his role, and it led to his arrest. He ended up serving 7 months in jail and wasn't pardoned until 1993. I want to point out that this year, that particular bowling alley where the shit got started, they're actually trying to convert it into a quote unquote civil rights museum, or excuse me, a national monument. So these 3 lives that were taken, these students who never went past the age of 18, they will be memorialized by this tomb, for lack of better words. This was the scene of the crime. You know what I mean? So I wanted to just remember them because of the fact that this is one of those stories in history that are not reported. We hear about the whole Kent State situation, but this is one of many stories that have been swept under the rug. So I wanted to remember these folks today, 54 years later.
No, you're right. There's like people don't know about that. That's not something that's told in terms of sort of mass education around one of the struggles that happened during that period. So it's good that you did bring that story up, and you're right. Also, what happened, we talked about the sort of performative activism. Now we also have like performative memorials where everything gets remembered, and then they make you pay a fee to come look, or they show you a statue to act like they care. And you know what the folks, the firemen and the policemen and the mayor, and all those folks who attacked them, those folks called themselves? They called themselves Americans. So I don't identify with my enemy. You know what I mean? On that note, we are at the end of the RemiX morning show. I want to thank everybody for coming out. We got more stuff coming up tomorrow. We're probably going to have another full house. So y'all stay tuned. Everybody good. We out. RemiX.
Yes, sir. RemiX morning show.